I bonds are certainly attractive right now with the big amount of interest that they're paying. Should you consider using I bonds for your college savings? Ooh, I got that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. I bonds have just taken the investing world by storm this year, gotten a lot of attention, and deservedly so, right? These are treasury savings bonds that actually pay interest in sort of two forms. One, they've got a fixed interest rate, which is 0. But then the other interest rate component is tied to inflation, and it adjusts every 6 months. Now, right now, that was paying 7% or just about, fantastic. And then it moved, because it moves in April and November, it moved its interest rate to 9.62%. That is incredible. You invest into an I bond right now, and for the next 6 months, as long as you invest before November of 2022, the first 6 months will be earning 9.62%, and then after that, it will adjust to whatever the interest rate is at that time. My hunch is we're not going to get inflation under control by the time November of 2022 hits. The interest rate could be just as high. My guess is even higher. With such a competitive interest rate, not even competitive, an unbelievable interest rate. You can't find that anywhere else. Should you consider using I bonds for college savings? Lots of people have looked and said, well, where could they fit in my retirement savings? A lot of people have said, where could they fit in my cash or my emergency fund? Should they fit in your college savings? Well, there's several pros to this. There's several reasons why you should consider it. And the first is obviously the interest rate. 9.62%, where can you get that anywhere else? It's guaranteed, it's fixed, right? But it's going to change every 6 months. You need to be aware of that. But where can you get that level of interest rate? And the second reason why to consider this is college expenses are moving with inflation, right? They're going to increase each and every year as well. And with this interest rate being tied to inflation, hopefully your savings into I bonds would keep pace with inflation and the rising cost of tuition. Will it outperform? Will it exceed the tuition increases, the increase, the inflation increase to your college expenses? Likely not, okay? But it should at least keep up with them. Second reason to consider using I bonds for college savings is the growth on this is state tax free. That's how savings bonds work. After you withdraw the dollars, that growth, whatever, it doesn't need to be reported on your state tax return. So that is an advantage. And then the third reason is if you qualify, and I'll get to that in just a second, the growth on these I bonds could be federally tax free if they're used for education reason, for qualifying education. If you have educational expenses within the same year as you cashed in and withdrew some of your I bonds, that growth could be federally tax-free, again, as long as you use it for education. Now, the disadvantage is, the con is there's a limitation. You could make too much money, and even if you use your I bond for education, you still may be required to claim the interest, the gain, as income on your tax return. That's right, for individual filers, for head of household, if your modified adjusted gross income is above, let's say, around $95,000, even if you use your I bonds for education, you're still going to have to claim that interest on your federal tax return. That otherwise, if your income's below that, you'll be fine and you can use that I bond for education tax-free. For married filing jointly, it's around $155,000, your modified adjusted gross income. If you're above that, you still have to claim the interest on your I bond. Even if you use it for education, still have to claim it as income on your tax return. If you're below that threshold, fantastic, it's no problem. But that's one of the cons, that you've got this income limitation as to whether you get this benefit by using the I bonds for education. By the way, if you marry file separate, you have to claim it. Even if you use the money for education, it's still going to be income on your tax return regardless, simply by filing separately. Another disadvantage to using the I bond for college expenses for education is there's no state tax incentive. And you might say, wait a second, yes there is, because there's no state tax. Yeah, I know, but 529 plans Typically, there is a state tax incentive. Those are not taxed. The growth is not taxed to the state either, but typically you have an extra incentive, an extra deduction, or even tax credit to making a contribution to that 529 plan. With a I bond, there is no benefit to making that contribution. There's no extra sweetener, no extra benefit, where other, like the 529 plan, other college savings vehicles, they might have that. Therefore, disadvantage to the I bond. And then the third reason why you may not want to use the I-bond as a college savings tool is it's extremely complicated. Kevin Korhorn, the founder of Korhorn Financial Group, said early on in my career, savings bonds are some of the most complicated investments out there. And I thought at the time, what? This guy must be crazy. Everyone uses savings bonds. Now this was, 20, 25 years ago. Everyone knows what savings bonds are used. Can't be that complicated. They are. They are unbelievably complicated. Number one, you've got to hold these for 12 months. Number two, if you cash it in within 5 years, you got to pay some of the interest back. Number three, you can only put up to 10 grand in there per calendar year. Number four, how you get money in, it's got to be direct, or you could buy them through your tax return. How confusing is that? Number five, there's not much, it's not easy to transfer them to the next generation or so. So there's just lots and lots and lots of complexity, let alone the interest rate on these things changes every 6 months. And at some point, hopefully soon, but probably not, whenever inflation does calm down and stabilize, the interest on these things may go to zero, right? And therefore, so these are wildly complicated, and I would argue is a disadvantage of using I-bonds for college education. So what do? If you have a goal of helping your kids or grandkids with their education, with their college expenses, or even private school expenses, sit down with your certified financial planner, because they're going to do one thing. First, they're going to make sure that you understand what your goal is. Do you want to fund 100%? Do you want to fund 50%? Are you talking about an Ivy League school? Are you talking about a community college, a state school, something like that? They're going to help you define and craft that goal. And then second, they're going to determine what you need to do, how much you need to be saving to get on track for that goal. And then three, they're going to evaluate all investment vehicles and help you determine the right one or ones to use to achieve that goal. To me, we live in Indiana. Indiana has the best state tax incentive for contributing to a 529 plan of any state out there. Therefore, I would consider making sure that you contribute enough to get the full tax credit that the state offers. If you still need to contribute more than that in order to be on track for your goal, maybe you consider diversifying that and adding some I-bonds, but you've got to be aware of those pros, but also those cons as well. Work with your certified financial planner, build that plan, figure out how much to fund, figure out which vehicles are the right ones to fund as well, then you're off to the races. Maybe I-bond should be part of that conversation. Work with your CFP. If you don't have a CFP that's doing comprehensive financial planning with you, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.